when you do a Google search, it will direct you away from anything that harms the pharmaceutical industry. It makes no sense. They're notoriously corrupt. This is a crisis much worse than the coronavirus crisis. Is really kind of the root of the problem, which is in, I think it was 1996, FDA adopted a new rule. It was illegal in this country for pharmaceutical companies to advertise drugs direct to consumer. In other words, to advertise on TV. And then FDA changed that rule. So there's only 2 countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise on TV, and New Zealand is one, and we're the others. And we have, as a result of that, we have the highest drug prices, and we have the most drugs. I think 9 out of every 10 dollars in the world spent on pharmaceutical drugs is spent in this country. So we're, it's not a good thing for public health. And by the way, the 3rd leading cause of death in this country is pharmaceutical drugs. So they're not making us healthier. We have the most aggressive vaccine schedule in the world in this country, and we have the worst health in our children and adults. We have the worst infant mortality. We have, if you look at any of the metrics, the US, I think, is 72 in the infant mortality in the world. We're around Syria and Costa Rica. And when I was a kid, we were number 1 on all of those. We were the best, we're the healthiest people in the world, the best healthcare system. Today, we get, we're paying the most money for the worst outcomes. And a lot of that is because pharmaceutical advertisements, not only do they advertise on TV, but they control content. Anderson Cooper is sponsored by Pfizer. Erin Burnett is sponsored by Pfizer. The NBC Nightly News is sponsored by Merck. And Roger Ailes told me, Roger Ailes, who I knew very well, and it was the founder of Fox News. I didn't agree with him politically, but we were friends. We spent a couple of months together in a tent when I was 18 years old in Africa, and I had this, good relationship with him. And he understood the issue of vaccine injury he had a personal experience with vaccine injury, where a kid who was close to him was injured. And so he knew it was true. And I had helped make a film, a documentary about it a couple of years before he died, when he was still at the height of his powers. And I asked him, can I come on? I didn't want to play it on Fox, but I wanted to come on Fox and talk about it. And he said, I can't let you do that. He said, in fact, if any of my hosts allowed you on their show, I'd have to fire them. And if I didn't, I would get a call from Rupert within 10 minutes. Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox, also owns one of the biggest vaccine companies in the world and has been one of the big promoters of it. But what Roger told me then, he said during non-election years, during certain parts of the year, 70% of our advertising revenue for evening news shows is coming from pharma. And he said typically there's about 22 ads on an evening news, and 17 of those are pharmaceutical ads. That's why you see these aggressive promotions of vaccines all the time. You're constantly being told it's flu season, get your vaccine, because they're selling the products not just during the advertising section of the show, but they're selling the products during the entire show. And get your measles, and then this inflating the terror of flu, the terror of measles, the terror of coronavirus, which are constant themes, which bring them in viewers, but also sell medical products, which is what their advertisers are trying to sell. And those companies, CNN and those other companies have been utterly compromised. They're not asking the questions of government officials that they need to be asking. And they're giving, they're bowing down and genuflecting to Anthony Fauci, who has a very well-documented and very checkered history of telling the truth, of not telling the truth, of abusing his power, and of resulting and of doing really sinister things like hiding the leukemia virus that is known to be in 3 of our large vaccines that we know causes cancer. And he's hidden that from the American people. He fired the number one scientist at NIH when her studies showed that those vaccines were contaminated. And he also, he was, Judy Mikovits, who worked for the agency, was on the team that identified the HIV vaccine or HIV virus and connected it to AIDS. And he kept that secret for 6 months so that he could get one of his cronies to make the publication. But that resulted in many, many people getting AIDS because the test was delayed by 6 months. Those things are really black spots on Tony Fauci's record. And to turn our entire nation over to Tony Fauci with this unquestioned reverence and the constant, genuflecting to him, I think is something that is not healthy for our country. And it's really kind of sickening to watch the news division. These people are supposed to be reporters doing the exact same thing that they did during the Iraq War, which is that, what reporters are not supposed to take the word of government officials. My father told me when I was a kid, people in power lie. The job of a reporter is constant skepticism, constant scrutiny, and to ask the difficult questions, and that simply is not happening.